Recording in progress.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك وعلمنا من لدنك علما ينفعنا في الدين والدنيا الكريم. أما بعد, Alhamdulillah, we're back, and I'm very sorry for the delay that happened last fortnight. SubhanAllah, everything shut down and had no access to anything, and I thought all the classes would go with. Alhamdulillah. So, inshallah, in today's class, we'll read through the text of what we explained, the introduction we explained last week, and then we'll add on to that, inshallah ta'ala. So we had a bit of an introduction to nikah, what nikah means, conditions of nikah, just to get an understanding. So in a Shafi'i method, nikah consists of two sides, okay? And these are pillars of nikah. So it can't be a nikah without two sides. And then a guardian for the lady. So this is an extra part. So the lady is there, and then also a guardian for the lady. They both have to be there. Now the lady doesn't have to be present, but the guardian has to be present for the nikah. And then two witnesses on the nikah. That's, then adding to that, there's the sigha, the wording of the nikah, how it's done. These are the components of nikah. Mahar is also a component, but if it's not given in the sitting of nikah, the nikah is still correct. What happens is that mahar stays in the dhimma, or it's on the head of the husband to give later on. Okay, but that's why they don't mention it in some scholars don't mention it as a component, others mention it as a component. Mahar is compulsory. No lady in Islam, it's not halal for any lady in Islam to enter into a marriage without deserving a mahar, basically. But mahar could be given later on. That's why we could consider it a component, and we could also consider it one of the wajibat that follow. It is the compulsory.
Would that still need to be agreed up front at the time?
No. So we'll get to mahar, I think, in next class. But basically, the mahar, if it's agreed upon, then alhamdulillah, that mahar can be given. If it's not agreed upon, you go back to the general mahar, the mahar of that lady or the people around her, the area you're in, the place you're in, the time you're in. The general mahar that is given becomes compulsory for you to get if you haven't agreed on a certain mahar. So you can agree on something very small or something very big. But if you don't agree, then it goes back to the urf. So for example, in Australia it's a bit hard, but if you go to, for example, Arab countries, it's known that, for example, the mahar of this tribe, this family is 40,000 dirhams or riyals or whatever it is. The mahar of this family is 30,000. Khalas, it's pretty simple. There's not much leeway for people to play around with this. Anyway, so I'll get that. So we didn't read any of the wording of Abu Shuja in the last class, so we'll read it inshallah today. Sayyid Abu Shuja rahimahullah ta'ala says, alhamdulillah wa sallallahu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. قال رحمه الله ورضي عنه ونفعنا بالعلوم في الدارين. كتاب النكاح وما يتعلق به من الأحكام والقضايا. والنكاح مستحب لمن يحتاج إليه، ويجوز للحر أن يجمع بين 4 حرائر، وللعبد أن يجمع بين 2، ولا ينكح الحر أمة إلا بشرطين: عدم صداق الحرة وخوف العنت.
People who should get married. Marriage is recommended for anyone who needs it. It is permissible for a free man to marry up to 4 free wives, and for a slave to marry 2. A free man does not marry a slave except under 2 conditions: A, lack of a free woman's marriage payment, and B, fear of fornication.
So we explained this in the last class. It's pretty clear, inshallah ta'ala. So some of these slides, we'll just read through them because we explained in the last class. And basically, we explained that nikah is mustahab, it's sunnah for the one who needs to get married. And then in some cases, it can become compulsory for a person. If they don't get married, they fall into haram. And they need to get khalas, they have to get married. Even if they don't have all the security that they will have a set income for the rest of their life, they still need to get married. So marriage, like we said, it can have all different rulings. It can be mustahab, it can be wajib, compulsory, it can be also disliked in cases. There's many rulings, but generally, if a person needs to, they should get married. If there's no need to get married, generally the Shafi'i madhab is more towards the person not getting married. If there's no need to get married, then khalas, spend your time worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you don't have any need. But don't just get married for the sake of getting married. You find that in the Shafi'i. Some other madhab are more towards getting married in any case. He says then that, of course, يجوز للحر أن يجمع بين أربع حرائر, that it is permissible for a free man to marry up to 4 wives. Now, and for a slave to marry 2. Now, in the Shafi'i madhab, it is disliked for someone to marry more than 1 wife. So the original case is 1 wife, and it's not sunnah, or he says yajuz means it's permissible, but doesn't mean that it's doing it or not doing it is the same. If there's no need, it's disliked to do so. If there's no need, it's disliked to do so for many reasons, and one of the reasons is the ayah in the Quran, وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَنْ لَا تَعْدِلُوا فَوَاحِدَةً. If you're scared not to be fair, then 1. And Allah Ta'ala basically in this ayah, He's warning us that in the other ayah, what He say? وَلَن تَسْتَطِيعُوا أَن تَعْدِلُوا بَيْنَ النِّسَاءِ وَلَوْ حَرَصْتُمْ. Even if you try to be fair, you won't be able to be fair. So these 2 ayahs together tell us that Allah Ta'ala is warning us that it's generally the case of most people who have more than 1 wife is that they're not fair between them, and you're risking yourself falling into haram by doing that. So you should put the risk of haram aside and just stay with it. And then he said, if a person who is a hur, so a free man, cannot marry a slave generally in Islam unless they can't marry someone who is free. So there's 2 conditions. These are mentioned in the Quran in Surah Nisa. So he can't pay the mahar, he can't pay for the marriage of a free woman. He can't afford to marry a free woman, and he's scared of falling into haram. Okay. He then says, and we explained this also in last class. He says, ونظر الرجل إلى المرأة على 7 أضرب أحدها نظره إلى الأجنبية لغير حاجة فغير جائز، والثاني نظره إلى زوجته وأهله فيجوز أن ينظر إلى ما عدا الفرج منهما، والثالث نظره إلى ذوات محارمه أو أمته المزوجة فيجوز فيما عدا ما بين السرة والركبة، والرابع النظر لأجل النكاح فيجوز إلى الوجه والكفين، والخامس النظر للمداواة فيجوز إلى المواضع التي يحتاج إليها، والسادس النظر للشهادة والمعاملة فيجوز النظر إلى الوجه خاصة، والسابع النظر إلى الأمة عند ابتياعها فيجوز إلى المواضع التي يحتاج إلى تقليبها.
Looking at members of the opposite sex. There are 7 cases of a man looking at a woman. Looking, number 1, at an unrelated woman without need is impermissible. Looking at his wife or slave girl, it is permissible to look at everything other than the genitals. Number 3, at close relatives or his married slave girl, it is permissible to look at everything other than the area between the navel and the knee. Number 4, for the purpose of marriage, it is permissible to look at the face and hands. Number 5, for the sake of medical treatment, it is permissible to look to the extent needed. Number 6, for the sake of testimony or trade, it is permissible to look at the face specifically. And number 7, as a slave girl when buying her, it is permissible to look at the areas that need to be inspected.
Okay, so he says the first thing is looking at the opposite gender without need. We said that many of the later Shafi'i scholars are more towards it not being permissible if there's no need. And we mentioned that there is another opinion of Imam Rafi, that it is not haram unless there is a fear of fitna or temptation. So, but anyway, according to the famous opinion, that it's not permissible if there's no need, only when there's a need. The second is, he said, نظره إلى زوجة أمته. He says, your wife, it's permissible to look at everything other than the private parts. Now, what's the ruling of looking at the private parts? No, he says it's not permissible, so it's dislike, not haram, dislike. Okay, there's no need, dislike. And there's many hadith that kind of pointed out that to focus on that area or to look at too much is not something that Islam encourages. But it's not haram if someone does. الثالث, so there's no awra. We said before, there's no awra between the husband and wife. There's no awra between husband and wife, but doesn't mean that there is no priority in how one does it. الثالث نظر, and of course when he says the private parts, means the genitals itself, not what is surrounding them or what is around them, but the actual part itself. That is what is disliked. The surrounding is not disliked. Okay. الثالث نظره إلى ذوات محارمه أو أمته المزوجة فيجوز ما بين السرة والركبة. So a mahram, the person who you're not allowed to marry, it's haram to marry. And also, if you had a slave girl, but she was married to someone else, that means you're not allowed to have any intimate contact or relationship or physical attraction towards this person if she's married. So two men cannot seek any physical pleasure from the same woman, no matter whatsoever. There's no way around it. So she takes the ruling of your mahrams. And according to Abu Shuja says, it means your the relatives that you're not allowed to marry, your sisters, your mother, your aunties, others, your mother-in-law. It's permissible to see everything other than what is between the belly button and knee, meaning that this is the awra. Okay, this cannot be seen unless there's a necessity for any reason. Now, doesn't mean that we don't just modestly or appropriately in front of each other, but this is the boundaries of the awra itself. For example, in some cases, in some positions, breastfeeding in front of family isn't seen to be something aib or looked down upon, or doesn't basically break any boundaries or limits. In some cultures, other cultures, it's very sensitive. Okay, in that culture, would it be haram if the sister breastfed, an older sister breastfed in front of a younger brother? It wouldn't be haram in that case, as long as there's no, of course, chance of haram or looking in an inappropriate way, then it'll become haram immediately. But this is just if there's nothing like that, there's no feelings, it's just something that happens casually in the family, then it would not be haram. الرابع النظر لأجل النكاح فيجوز الوجه. So looking to get married to someone, it can be, you can look at the face and hands only. Okay, so the face, you can tell the general shape or the general look of the person, and the hands tell you about if the person color of the skin, if their body is soft, not like that. So that you can tell more about the body from the hands, but then other than that, no, it's not permissible. Feet, neck, arms, that's all not permissible according to the Shafi'i method, and according to the majority of fuqaha, it's not permissible either. The Hanabila madhab is a bit more lenient. They say that you can see the parts that she would show if she was working at home. So parts of the arms, for example. So she wouldn't have strict hijab, but still the hair is not permissible, even in the Hanbali madhab. So in some cultures, people, when they go to see someone, they're in full makeup and hair and everything. That's not permissible according to all the four madhab. There's some opinions, but it's not famous in the four madhab. Okay. He then says, الخامس النظر للمداوة. So, of course, if it's for medical purposes, then the part that needs to be covered, uncovered, can be seen for that purpose, and then covered immediately after. So what you see in hospitals when they uncover the whole body, for example, that's if we can limit it, we should. We could talk to the doctor and say to them, doctor, if one of our relatives, male or female, doesn't matter, is having an operation, a lot of doctors they don't care. I mean, they would uncover the whole body, and even if they need to work on them a little bit, that for us that's not lawful. We should try our best to encourage them to only uncover what is needed. We have boundaries, and the body of every individual is respected in Islam. It can't just be uncovered like that. There's a hurma, they call kind of like a body is a sacred in okay. The sixth one, he says another shahada. We spoke in the last class. We said if someone is to commit is to accuse another person of doing something, it could be zina, it could be something haram, then to be a witness, then you would need to look at the part that is or the act only for the purpose of shahada. He then says another al-amal ajib ti'ah. If someone is to buy a slave, then they could look at the areas they are concerned about. Okay. He then says فصل ولا يصح عقد النكاح إلا بولي وشاهدي عدل. يفتقر الولي والشاهدان إلى 6 شرائط: الإسلام والبلوغ والعقل والحرية والذكورة والعدالة، إلا أنه لا يفتقر نكاح الذمية إلى إسلام الولي ونكاح الأمة إلى عدالة السيد.
Integrals. Marriage contract is invalid without the presence of the bride's guardian and 2 upright witnesses. Conditions for the bride's guardians and witnesses. The bride's guardian and witnesses must meet 6 conditions. Each must be Muslims, mature, sound mind, free, male. The condition of being Muslim is not written, nor does the owner of the female slave need to be upright or guardian.
The screen. Yeah. Computers. Is Zoom still on?
Yes, Sheikh.
Make sure it's still on. I think it's on.
So what's the exact characteristic of being upfront?
Just 1 second, I'll just connect and then we'll, Okay, so which one are you talking about? Which one? Yes.
The owner of a female slave doesn't have to be upright.
Yes. Okay. So upright, he's saying is adl. Okay. What's adl mean? Adala is the situation. The slide I'm showing. Okay. So adala being upright, it means that a person has basically 2 main properties. Number 1, they are religious. They're not known to do anything haram publicly, or to be consistent on something haram. At the same time, they are respected. They don't do anything that makes them be looked down upon. They don't do silly things that are not appropriate in the street or something like that. That's generally, if you talk, what the fuqaha generally talk about is these 2 things. So there's someone who can be, usually these people can be a witness. The judge can accept their when they witness for something, the judge can accept their saying. If someone that is not adil in Islam, they don't like it. Even in hadith, in the science of hadith, if someone who's not adil, they can't narrate hadith, can't accept the hadith. So it's one of the conditions, even to narrate something. Okay, that person is adil. So in nikah, it's important to notice that both the guardian plus the witnesses have to be adil. All of them. Yeah, not only the guardian or witnesses. You can't just get anyone in the street to come and be a witness in nikah. Okay. And if a father is you know, he's open, he drinks openly, does things haram open and stuff, he can't marry his daughter. So what's the case? He has to make tawbah before he marries off his daughter. He has to repent to Allah. That's why, like we said in last class, that usually in nikah, our scholars, because it will cause a big problem if we say we can't marry his daughter. Usually we say, Yallah, everyone, let's repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala together now, and then we do it. So in your heart, you can't say, I'm going to do haram. In your heart, repent. Leave your haram alone. If they go back to it later on, that's not your business, okay? But you don't see them doing haram at the nikah. Also, we try our best to not have any haram happening in the ceremony. Okay, so as a celebrant, it's very hard sometimes, but you know, I always tell them, like, I don't know, when I come, I just want to do the nikah, I'll leave. I don't want to see anything haram in the room. I would respect if the ladies are covered, for example, if you know there's nothing disappropriate being played or anything. I don't want to hear or see any of the nadir. So once the nikah is done, even if people go back after that, the nikah is fair. Also, if a person after nikah, we doubt that maybe they weren't the nikah, it's okay. The nikah is fine as long as the nikah is done. Even doubting doesn't break the nikah. Doesn't. Okay, but the moment you do nikah, it's important that we try to have people who are adil. Okay. Yeah, some other scholars say no, it's not a condition, but this is the famous. Okay. Then he says, that nikah must be done with a wali, with a guardian for the bride, and then 2 witnesses, and they all have to be adil. So he said 2 upright witnesses, but also even the guardian has to be upright. And I think we mentioned that in the last class as well. He then says, يفتقر الولي والشهداء الناس. So the conditions of the wali and the witnesses are Islam. Okay. Bulugh. So they're mature, or they're accountable Islamically. Then he says al-aql. So they're in their sound mind. So there's nothing, they don't have any mental illness that makes them not conscious, and also they're not affected by any drug or anything that makes them conscious. Okay, al-hurriya, to be free, al-dhukura, so the witnesses need to be male, and al-adala, just as we just explained now, which is to be upright. And then he said, except that if someone is non-Muslim and her guardian marries off, it doesn't have to be Muslim, of course. It makes sense. Okay, and also if it's a slave being married off, the master doesn't have to be adil doesn't have to be upright. Then he says, وأولي الولاة الأب ثم الجد ثم أبو الجد ثم الأخ للأب والأم ثم الأخ للأب ثم ابن الأخ للأب والأم ثم ابن الأخ للأب ثم العم ثم ابنه على هذا الترتيب. فإذا عدمت العصبات فالمولى المعتق ثم عصباته ثم الحاكم.
The bride's guardians. Rightful guardianship for the marriage contract is determined according to the following order. First, the father, then the paternal grandfather, then a full brother, then a consanguine brother, then a full brother's son, then a consanguine brother's son, then a paternal uncle, and then finally a paternal uncle's son. When the bride is a former slave, if the male universal inheritor does not exist, then the guardian is the one who freed her, followed by the emancipator's universal male inheritor.
Okay, so that's clear.
Then in the absence of all others,
a judge. Okay, that's all clear. Now, what if there's none of these? What happens? No, none of these are there. Yeah. So then they have to appoint someone. So there's something called tahkim, where both parties come together and they appoint someone to act on their part. Okay, so and that's what happens in case if someone didn't have a Muslim male in the family, then this would be the case. Okay. Inshallah, the next thing we'll talk about quickly is khutubah or engagement. Okay. So there's not much to talk about in khutubah, but khutubah is a concept. So many people have the idea that there's nothing called khutuba. There's no type of engagement in Islam, and that engagement is a non-Muslim practice that Muslims have adopted. A lot of people say that, okay? Well, subhanallah, in Sahih Bukhari, we know one of the Sahabiyat, she was, her husband passed away and she gave birth. When the lady gives birth, the iddah finishes. So, subhanallah, they said, yeah, that she got ready. She dressed up so that the khutbah, the people, once you were interested in getting engaged to her, would come. So khutuba or engagement is mentioned even in the hadith. It's well known. People come to see someone and then they speak. They mention that they're going to marry this person. And that's what Prophet says, لا يخطب أحدكم على خطبة أخيه. Don't engage. Don't ask for someone. If someone else has already, ask for them. Until they leave or they allow you. They say to you, go ahead, it's fine. She can choose whoever she wants. But if not, you can't go and you don't go and ask for someone that someone else has already asked for officially. Okay. So some of the general rulings regarding engagements is that, as was mentioned, in regard to physical interactions, people who are engaged are considered non-relatives. There's no difference. So no type of touching. Just as you would deal with any other non-relative, you would deal with each other. Second one is that one of the exemptions is looking at the person you'd like to marry is recommended. Okay, it's not recommended to go look at every single person in the street, but if you're going to marry someone, you should look at that. Yeah? So you should look at the person you want to marry. It's not a condition, but it is recommended. Prophet he encouraged us to do this in many hadith. So talking with spouse should also be done with the same boundaries as talking with someone who's not related. It should be regarding things that are have a need, but not just general talk. And it shouldn't get too romantic. We must control our feelings when in these situations. Until the nikah is done, then everything is halal. Another ruling related to engagement that we're going to cover inshallah soon is there's certain rulings related to the limits of mentioning marriage to someone else. So if you go to a lady and you say, I want to marry you, are you free or something? Then there's certain limits that we'll come to in the next slide, inshallah. This is the main ruling that we'll study in engagement, inshallah. Okay. So also the limits of asking for someone's hand in marriage while they already asked for, we just mentioned that before. Mentioning your interest in someone if they are in the iddah or the waiting period between death of the husband or divorce of the husband and until they become free from marriage. So as we know, there's a period that they have to wait. You can't just finish the marriage and tomorrow marry someone. Yeah, there's a period that you have to wait in Islam. So there's two types of proposing or of mentioning your interest in marrying someone. Okay, there's explicitly proposing. So you tell the person that I want to marry you. Full stop. And the other one is alluding to the topic. For example, some scholars say example would be that you tell them that I would be interested in marrying someone who is similar to you or has the same traits as you, for example. Okay, stuff like that. So this is not clear. You're not clearly saying to them, but you're hinting to them. Okay. That in many cases is permissible. We'll just mention the difference, inshallah. So if a lady is not married, not in iddah, you can explicitly propose or you can allude to the topic. It's up to you. There's nothing wrong with that. If a lady is on iddah, okay, of the first or second divorce, meaning that it's called iddah al-raj'iyya. What does that mean? When a lady is divorced once, the husband can take her back until the iddah finishes. Can take her back without a new contract. Second time divorces, same thing. Okay. Third time divorces, خلاص. He can't take her back without her getting married and then married. So it's haram to do both in this case because she's still under her husband to a certain extent. And then the lady in the iddah of the last divorce or of death, meaning that there's no way she's going to go back to her husband. She's just waiting for the iddah to finish. In this case, while the iddah is still there, you can't explicitly propose, but you can allude to it. And that's mentioned in the Quran. In the Quran, it's mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah. In the second page after the ayah of breastfeeding, it's mentioned there. Okay. Abu Shuja summarizes this. He says, ويجوز أن يصرح بخطبة معتدة ويجوز أن يعرض لها ولا يجوز أن يصرح بخطبة معتدة ويجوز أن يعرض لها وينكحها بعد انقضاء عدتها والنساء على ضربين طيبات ومكار فالبكر يزوجها الأب والجد وإجبارها على النكاح يجوز للأب والجد إجبارها على النكاح والثيب لا يجوز تزويجها إلا بعد البلوغ وإذنها.
Engagement. It is not permissible to explicitly propose to a woman during her waiting period. It is permissible to allude to the proposal and to then marry her after her irrevocable waiting period expires. Compelling women to marry. Women are in two categories, virgins and non-virgins. It is permissible for the father or paternal grandfather to compel a virgin to marry. It is not permissible for them to marry off a non-virgin until she is mature and expresses her consent.
Okay. Now this topic is a bit of this detail because it can be misunderstood many times, inshallah, and it's the opinion of the majority of madhab. So there's two types of wali or guardian. One is known as mujbir and the other one is ghayr mujbir. Okay, mujbir means one who can override basically. Okay, he has the say. And ghayr mujbir is someone who doesn't. He can't say anything without the permission of the lady first. So in the past, we know that in many cases, for example, the father would, this is not only in Islamic culture. Yeah? Even my grandfather, who's non-Muslim, my grandmother, who's non-Muslim, her father, the same thing with us. He chose the husband for her, and she got married. Like no one used to choose in that days, in the young. From a very young age, they say, "Oh, this person's for this," and then that's how it used to go. Anyway, so not everyone can do that. Okay, that can only be done from the father with conditions, with strict conditions. So the person has to fulfill certain conditions for him to be able to do that. If the person is not compatible, he can't do that. Okay, so as we said, wali is the one who conducts the marriage on behalf of the lady, and like we said, the majority of fuqaha say that if there's no wali, the nikah is not valid. The Maliki, Shafi'i, and Hanbali opinion is that it's not valid. Only the Hanafis allow it. And there's no difference if the person is virgin or a widow in this case. The Prophet ﷺ says in the hadith, لا تزوج المرأة المرأة ولا تزوج المرأة نفسها. A woman may not marry off another woman, nor may she give herself in marriage. So according to this hadith, the majority of fuqaha, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad, Imam Malik, believe that a lady needs to have someone represent her in the nikah. Yes. And now, of course, there's many reasons why this is the case. As we said, I always say in the nikah that this is actually a form of respect and of to the lady, and that it's she's being represented by someone, and that she's not put into conducting nikah herself, even though she has a say in most cases. She can choose to marry someone or not marry them, but she still should have someone representing her in that case. Okay. So the wali is divided into mujbir and ghayr mujbir also. Yeah. So mujbir is only the father or the paternal grandfather, so the father's father. Yeah. Now, the concept of ijbar, meaning marrying her off without needing to get her consent, can only be done if she has not been married before, okay, whether she's a child or an adult, but she can't have been married before. Okay. And like I said, the reason this generally Sharia, one of the reasons I mentioned is that the wedding with the father just generally has extreme affection and for his daughter, and would not marry her. That's why if he goes against his daughter and he marries someone who's not compatible, doesn't count. Now, even if the father knew the person is compatible and the best person for the daughter, it's still not prioritized that he doesn't ask for permission. He should still ask for permission. All cases. And as the Prophet ﷺ says, that even a shy young girl who hasn't been married before, in those days, agreement would be to be quiet. Like she would not say no. That would be that means that she agreed. But they would still ask for permission. So that's the sunnah. The sunnah is to ask permission. Okay. But the question is that if someone was to marry off his daughter, and then later on she goes, "Oh yeah, I'm okay with it," but he didn't ask my permission, the nikah is still correct. It's not invalid. Okay. So a person who gives a daughter in marriage must fulfill conditions. So the husband chosen must be compatible with the daughter, and this is known as kafa'ah. So there are certain ranks that he has to match with her. Okay, he has to be from the same class, society. Be able to. He has to be. He can't be religiously different. For example, there's many things. In the Arabs, they consider even certain tribes to not be compatible with other tribes. So if someone is from the family of Prophet ﷺ, they wouldn't be compatible, and stuff like that. So you could marry someone who's not compatible, but only with the permission of the lady. Yeah, there has to be permission. But if someone who's compatible, then the father can go ahead and marry the person. And this is the hadith that I just mentioned before. So anyway, like we said, there's no nikah without a wali, and in certain circumstances only can the wali have the say in nikah with strict conditions. Okay. Abu Shuja rahimahullah ta'ala then goes on and talks about the people who it is unlawful to marry in Islam. So he says, فصل والمحرمات بالنص 14 سبع بالنسب وهن الأم وإن علت والبنت وإن سفلت والأخت والخالة والعمة وبنت الأخ وبنت الأخت واثنان بالرضاع الأم المرضعة والأخت من الرضاع وأربعة من المصاهرة أم الزوجة والربيبة التي دخل بالأم وزوجة الأب وزوجة الابن وواحدة من جهة الجمع وهي أخت الزوجة ولا يجمع بين المرأة وعمتها ولا بين المرأة وخالتها ويحرم من الرضاع ما يحرم من النسب. We explain this also, just read it.
Unmarriageable women. There are 14 women who are unlawful to marry according to textual evidence. 7 are unlawful as a result of kinship. They are one's mother and her ancestors, one's daughters and their descendants, one's sisters, one's maternal aunts, one's paternal aunts, the daughters of one's brother, and the daughters of one's sister. 2 are unlawful as a result of nursing, the mother through nursing and the sisters through nursing. 4 are unlawful as a result of marriage, the wife's mother, the wife's daughter from a previous marriage when one has consummated the marriage to her mother, the wife of one's father, and the wife of one's son. 1 is unlawful from the perspective of joining, the wife's sister. 1 also does not join between a woman and her paternal aunt, nor her maternal aunt.
Okay, so
whatever is unlawful with blood relatives is also unlawful with relatives.
So we touched on this in last class. We said that Abu Shuja, he's numbered them, so 14. He said for unlawful to marry according to the Sharia, basically, or the evidence. And then he says these 14, 7 are because of kinship, and the others, and then 2 are because of nursing, and then 4 are because of marriage. So he says the ones who are unlawful to marry because of kinship are one's mother and her ancestors. So the mother of the mother, no matter how high you go, It's all haram. Full stop. Okay. The second he said is one's daughter, and now the opposite is also haram. So a lady can't marry her father or the father of her father, same thing. So just this example is for men, and then for ladies the same thing would apply, exactly the same. For a man, he can't marry his daughter or the daughter of his daughter of the daughter of the daughter of his daughter, no matter how long it goes. If the daughter, as we said, is born in a Islamic marriage, then she can't be married by the father. It's they have nasab between. The third is one's sister. One's sister, as we said, whether it's a full sister or half sister, they are haram to marry. The fourth is one's maternal aunts, and the fifth is one's paternal aunts, and then the daughter of one's brother and the daughter of one's sister. As we said, these are the mahrams. So in here we always learn the mahrams. These are the ones who you're not allowed to marry, and they are the people, generally, there's some exemptions, who you are also allowed to see without hijab. Unless we come to the people who you can't marry because of an ongoing issue, but then if that you can't marry two sisters at the same time. If one goes, then you can marry the other. Then you can't see them without hijab even when you're married. But if someone you're not allowed to marry forever for good, then they are the mahrams that we talk about in other sections of And then because of nursing, he says two. The mother through nursing and the sisters through nursing. Why is he saying two? Because he's talking about the females now. It would either be a mother or a sister. Okay. And four are unlawful as a result of marriage. So the wife's mother. The moment, okay, so once you've married someone, okay, once you've married someone, her mother becomes haram for good. For good, not just while you're married, for good. Even if you were just by doing the contract, even if you separated later on, your mother would still be your relative. Her mother would still be your relative. You could still see your mother's hijab. You still can't marry her mother. Okay, even if the daughter is no longer your wife. And that's why if that happens, the person should still check on the mother of the ex-wife if there's nothing preventing it, if she allows it. Okay. And subhanAllah, so just by doing the contract, the mother of your wife becomes mahram for good. And in the Shafi'i madhab, touching them no longer breaks the wudu. No longer breaks the wudu. Okay. So you used to break the wudu. The moment you do the nikah, touching the mother of your wife, even the touching your wife doesn't break the wudu. Touching the mother of your wife doesn't break the wudu. Because you can't marry her for good. Now, if someone marries a lady, her daughter doesn't immediately become the mahram. No. Only once the marriage is dukhul, so they basically they intimate, then the daughter becomes haram.
Like that stepdaughter.
Stepdaughter, yes. Only once they're intimate, then she becomes haram. Not by just doing the nikah. But the mother of your wife, just by doing the nikah, becomes haram. That's how it works. Okay. So the second is the wife's daughter from a previous marriage when one has consummated the marriage, just like I just said. And then he says the wife of one's father. What's the wife of one's father? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَلَا تَنْكِحُوا مَا نَكَحَ آبَاؤُكُم مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ إِلَّا مَا قَدْ سَلَفَ إِنَّهُ كَانَ فَاحِشَةً وَمَقْتًا وَسَاءَ سَبِيلًا. Don't ever marry the ones who your fathers have married. And then Allah says whatever has happened in the past is forgiven. He said it's disgusting. So it's maqt, yes. Fahisha, it's unlawful, and it's the wrong way to go. So in the Jahiliyyah, some people used to marry the people their father had married before. In Islam, that's one of the worst types of haram. And then he says, and the wife of one's son. Same thing. Okay. One is unlawful from joining the wife's sister. So basically, if you're married to someone, you can't marry the sister. Then he says, and also joining a woman and her paternal aunt or maternal aunt. Okay, that's clear. This is marrying them both at the same time. Now, we'll get to that in a minute. And then he says, whatever is unlawful by blood, the same is unlawful by nursing. And we explained that in the class. So the ruling regarding two sisters at the same time, or a wife and her aunt, is that the scholars say in the Shafi'i method, it's clear, and generally other madhab as well, every two ladies who it would be haram for one of them to marry the other if one was male, okay, cannot be two wives at the same time, the same husband. So two ladies, if one of them was male, they couldn't marry the other one. Let's say a lady and her sister. If one was married, it would be brother and sister. They couldn't marry each other. You can't marry them together. Two ladies, a lady and her aunt. If one of them were male, okay. Say she was a boy and he was. Could you marry your aunt? You couldn't marry your aunt. Yes. So just turn one of them into a male, and then you know if it's halal to marry them together. That's simplified, inshallah. And that is the last ruling we have today, inshallah ta'ala. Then next class we'll finish Nikah, inshallah ta'ala. So we'll talk about the defects that affect Nikah, and then we'll talk about Mahar as well, inshallah ta'ala, and a few matters regarding that, inshallah ta'ala. And then we'll be done, bi'idhnillah ta'ala, with Kitab al-Nikah, inshallah. Is there any questions?
So like you said, the list is in reverse for the ladies.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with the father-in-law. That
Mother-in-law become father-in-law,
forever.
brother would come sister, like that.
Yeah. But the one who you said with the man, the mother-in-law becomes forever. The same with the father-in-law.
So if the man does the marries lady, his father becomes a mahram, yeah, like that, yeah, yeah. But if it's the opposite, if someone marries a lady who has a daughter, she doesn't become mahram immediately to him until the marriage is consummated, because that's just like the opposite. Any questions? Anything in the chat? Is any questions? Whatever one sentence.
Like first one saying what forever.
Yeah. Yeah, if your son marries someone, forever you can't marry them. Yeah. So not forever is just marrying a lady and her sister at the same time. An auntie and aunt at the same time. But other than that, once the marriage is consummated, everyone becomes so, and meaning that the wife, mother, these people, you can't marry them. They have colors. You can't go by them.
The aunt by
First
blood, or because
so an aunt means the brother of your mother or your father.
yeah, not
So the sister of your mother or your mother or your father. So your mother's sister or your father's sister. That yeah, these are mahrams in Sharia. طيب إن شاء الله ننهي. Inshallah, we'll see everyone in 2 weeks. So that would be on the 4th of August.